Imagine your jaw. How hard are you clenching your teeth? Do you need to be holding your jaw tight? Oftentimes, the way we find ourselves on the ground, we have certain things that we like to do. Some people bite their teeth, they clench their jaw, and that gives them a sense of being here and present. But actually, it confuses your body a little bit. So relax the jaw a little bit. You don't need tension to hold it up. How much tension do you need to hold your neck or your head in place? Can your neck relax so your head balances on your neck? What about your shoulders? Are you holding your shoulders up, or can they just relax on your spine? Can you let the ground and gravity hold up your shoulders? And pay attention inside to maybe like your internal organs, if you have a picture of it, like maybe your lungs or your heart, or even your stomach and your intestines. Do you need to hold them so tight in your body? What if you just let them go just a little bit? Will they fall out of you? Are there structures in there that are holding them in place? And finally, your hips and your bum, whatever's touching the ground, do those need to be tense, or can you kind of let them go so they can settle into the ground? Take a deep breath, kind of check in on your breathing. So this is the place where we want to kind of have our movements. Oftentimes we have a lot of fear or stress responses paired with our movements. We want to separate them so our movements are clean. And then therefore our quality of movement is better, because sometimes fear will stop you from being as strong as you can be or as flexible as you can be. And we want to kind of erase that today. Okay. So if you can, lie down on your backs. Unless you're not comfortable, then we can do a modified version where you can be sitting. I know some of you might not have a yoga mat or have a hard floor. If you lie down on your backs, this is an exercise that I really like to do, and I'm just bringing it back. So imagine you had a scale, like a digital scale under each one of your arms and legs, and they're separate scales, and even one under your head. I want you to first imagine the weight of your head on that scale, and just get a sense of how much weight is your head putting on that scale. Now you can take your attention to your arms or your legs one at a time, and just imagine how heavy is that arm or that leg on that scale. Oftentimes for quality of movement, our brain needs a map, and it's not just given. We actually have to always develop and maintain kind of a perception of where our body is and how heavy it is in time and space. So really take the time to feel how big that scale needs to be to cover your whole, to be under your whole leg, and how heavy that leg has to be, or that arm. I'm just going to check in on Benoit, guys. Benoit, can you hear me? He was having some audio troubles. Benoit, I'll just catch you up. Everyone's lying down on the ground on their back. And we're just imagining a big digital scale under each one of our limbs, under the head, and getting a sense of how heavy each one is. What you'll also notice is that maybe one limb doesn't feel as heavy as another. So see if you can kind of equal them out. Sometimes our maps in our bodies are different. Even though your arms are probably within a few grams the same size, maybe the one that you use more, the one that you use less, feels heavier or lighter for some reason. See if you can even them out. They're both the same weight. This will help to start correct your mental map of your body. And we can see that for some people that have certain eating disorders, they'll look in the mirror and they're very fit and strong, but they don't see that. And so they're constantly trying to, because the map in their mind doesn't match reality, they're constantly trying to achieve something. Sometimes for us, we have an injury, or we imagine our body in a twisted sort of way. And so all our movements are based around that. So we want to clear that up. Okay, next exercise. So we're lying down on our backs. We have a scale underneath our head, underneath each one of our arms, under each one of our legs. I want you to lift up just to zero out that scale. So if the scale on your arm says 20 pounds, for example, you're lifting up enough pressure so that scale says zero, no more and no less than that. You'll notice that your body has to kind of shift and adjust just to lift your arm, just that little bit off the ground. You can do the same for your legs, one at a time, and your arms, one at a time. The movement should almost be invisible. And make sure your breathing is involved as well. So this is just initiating a movement. We want to make sure that even as we initiate it, there's relaxation, there's breathing there. And you'll see your whole body has to work and organize the muscles in order just to lift the arm just that little bit off the ground. And what you're doing is giving your brain a sense of how much it has to coordinate just for simple basic movements. And once in a while, if you notice yourself getting tense, because some of it happens under our radar, just do a quick scan. See how much tension you're using to hold your eyes up. You're lying on the ground, so you don't need to actually be holding your eyes up, or your neck, or even your shoulders for that matter, unless that's the arm that you're lifting. So give your attention to the ground. The ground's going to hold you up. Okay, so now something just a little bit more applicable. Now you're going to do opposites. So if you're going to lift up one arm, you're going to lift up the opposite leg and just a few millimeters off the ground, just enough to zero out the scale on each one of those. This is more akin to our patterns of walking. We always do human beings work in opposites. So if you have a shoulder injury on one side, you're likely to have a leg or hip injury on the other because the brain connects these areas. We want to clean that area up. And again, make sure your breathing matches your movement. If you're going to lift, at least on the inhale or exhale. You'll notice every time you're trying to lift, there is some downward pressure into the ground. And I want you to take a break, take some deep breaths, and try and just do a quick body scan to make sure that there's no residual tension from this. Now I want you to try something differently. So for every upward movement, you might have noticed that part of your body had to push deeper into the ground, had to kind of ground itself and settle in. So movement works in two directions, maybe even more, depending on how complex the movement is. For every downward movement, you're creating an upward movement. For everything that you want to push, you have to push down into the ground. So I want you to now focus on adding weight into that the part of your body. So example, if you want to lift your arm up, you'll notice that the opposite side of your back starts pushing heavier into the ground. I want you to start with a downward movement first. So I want you to start by orienting your body first before you lift the arm. And if you don't know what parts have to push into the ground, you could just lift your arm and your body will shift and that will tell you. But that's starting the movement from the arm. We actually want to start it from the body, putting pressure into the ground. What you'll notice is that it actually becomes a little bit easier to lift the arm up. There's less tension. And if you guys want to play with it a little bit, you can lift the arm even higher off the ground just to kind of get a sense. If you want to use it, if you want to reach out to somebody or if you want to take a step. And you guys are doing that with just one arm and one leg. If you'd like, you can always do opposites as well, or two arms and two arms together, two legs together. If you apply your body weight into the ground and organize your balance, the foundation, the grounding first, the upward movements of the arms and limbs become so easy. Sometimes you see videos of Michael Ryabko and people talk about him changing his density. Now, I don't quite understand what he's saying, but I start to get the sense that this might be kind of the work he does. He's shifting his weight really subtly inside to make his movements look so easy and so relaxed. Okay, excellent, guys. Just do a quick body scan and kind of see if anything became tense. Make sure your breathing is still there. Remember, we always like to check our eyes. Our eyes are the windows of our souls. They tell you how much tension and attention you're paying to something. So if they're too hyper-focused, we don't want that. We want them to be nice and relaxed. So was that easier for you guys? Thumbs up, or if that was easier, if you could put your weight into the ground to lift something up. Good. Now we're going to do a version, if you want to look at me, of a body raise. So we're going to create the movement not by lifting up, but by pushing down. And I know that sounds complicated, but if you imagine you have 33 segments of your spine, we want to be lifting by pushing each segment down, and that'll create an upward movement. Let me just show you. So I want to lift my head up. I'm going to push down this part of my spine into the ground. Then to lift this part up, I have to push this part of my spine down. And then I subsequently move my way down, lifting by pushing this part down. I'm not crunching up, I'm pushing my spine down. And I have to slowly go down each spinal segment to lift myself up. If that wasn't clear, you can unmute yourself. You can ask me if you want me to clarify a little bit. I'm assuming it wasn't very clear for everybody. So I'll just try and explain it again unless you guys want to interrupt me. So I'm trying to do a body raise, but not by crunching and tensing up. I'm pushing my back into the floor, pushing my back into the floor, and lifting from each segment of my spine, pushing that down. And then actually you can stay here relaxed. As long as you're pushing down, there's almost no tension in the front of the body. It's created by pushing the spine into the ground. And then you can do the same going back.
Mike, so what is it that you're paying attention to? Is it primarily to push down? Is it primarily to lift up? Or is it primarily to not have tension while coming up?
Okay, I want you to take away, and when we think of doing a body raise, we think of crunching and tensing up the front. I want you to change the way you think of that.
I got you.
Your upward movement comes from pushing down.
It's a lot more about leading up without tension than the actual push down.
Yeah, I know that's
just a tool.
Yes. Anyone else have any questions? So we'll do a few. If you want, you could do regular body raises, and the goal will be to do them as relaxed as possible. So I want you to try some of these if you can. But of course, if you have questions, please interrupt. That's it, nice, Miro. I can see you really pushing down. And what you'll notice is there's certain segments of your spine that are actually fused together in a way, like not literally, but they often are stuck and they don't want to work separately. We want to be able to separate each part of our spine so it works independently. If you do body raises and leg raises and you're hinging from one area, it can often overstress that area, especially in the spine. Nice, Jules. And don't be afraid to go really slow. Nice, when you get stuck, see if you can hold it there and just push down on that area that's touching the ground. At this point, you should have a really good awareness of what's pushing into the ground, what's touching the ground. And if you just relax and settle your weight on that and let it support you, you should be able to come up. Nice, and relax your shoulders, Hanho, if you can. Exactly, you need a little bit less tension than that. Nice. Al, see if you can relax the neck. Good. I can see you really working. Excellent. And if you're finding spots stuck in the spine, it's okay. You're just working through these areas. We don't want to force. We don't want to force the change, but sometimes with awareness, just paying attention, these things can go away. Excellent. Really nice, John. And even John, unfold yourself. Exactly. Nice and slowly. Good control. Oleg, if you want a good example, you should watch Tom do it. I could see you kind of curious about how it's happening. He's kind of like unrolling his spine onto the ground and rolling it back up. Not by crunching, but by downward pressure into the ground. Sorry, Tom, for putting so much pressure on you before. Okay, guys, you can take a break, do a quick body scan. If you're lying down or sitting, that's fine. And I want you just to scan the things that we've been scanning today. So your eyes, how much tension are you holding in your eyes? Your jaw, your neck. Are you holding your shoulders up, or can you put that tension into the ground? Can the ground support your shoulders? Your hips and your lower back. Do you need to be holding that up with tension, or can you release that into the ground? Okay, excellent, guys. Go back to your breathing. Make sure you're breathing nice and deep. Sometimes when we get so introspective, we actually start to hold our breath because we get so hyper-focused, but we want to do that with a good deep breath. Okay, so we're going to kind of alleviate some tension with our spine. So if you guys can come up to sitting. This is a similar version, but it's the opposite. So I'm going to sit a little bit further so you can see me. So we're going to be curling down, but from sitting. And I want to start with a straight spine. You can do your legs crossed or straight, whatever is comfortable for you. And I have to do it in segments. If I imagine my spine is segmented, I want to slowly tip my head and slowly just like I'm just releasing each part of my spine until I'm curled down as far as I can. I notice a tight spot here. I'm going to stay here and breathe until I can release it and see if I can allow my body to relax. Same thing when I want to come up. I'm going to lift up and just start to stack my spine on top of each other, one bit at a time, until I come all the way up to sitting. I went a lot faster than I'd like you guys to go. I want you guys to really pay attention to the tension in those areas in the spine. Our goal is that each spine segment can flex separately from each other. Oftentimes in our mind, they're paired together. And we establish all our movements around that. One little trick is if your shoulders are tense, likely the spine in the middle of your back is tense as well. So relax your shoulders. Even if your face muscles are tense, you're hyper-focused, I want you to see if you can relax those as well. If at any point this is aggravating any pain, you could just take a break or just play within your limit. I know some of you guys are working with injuries and it shouldn't hurt. Nice, you guys are all doing really good. And as you're coming up, try not to rush getting up. There's still work to be done as you're getting up. you can still sense how your spine likes to straighten itself. And it's nice. I can see you guys finding some juicy spots and just kind of sticking around and just breathing. The thing about the brain is if it doesn't feel safe, it won't release a muscle. If it thinks you're going to hurt yourself, it's going to limit that movement. And the way to kind of convince it that it's okay to move is to relax and breathe and show it that, you know, we can hang out here and nothing bad is going to happen. It's the same way you develop your splits. Your brain won't allow you to do the splits because it thinks you'll hurt your hips or injure yourself. But if you kind of stay in that position and prove to your brain that you have the strength to be in that position, you should be okay. It starts to give you flexibility. Excellent, guys. And just come up to sitting. I know there's a lot of internal work in there, and it can be very fatiguing to kind of go inside. But my goal here today is to try and get us to go inside our brains and maybe clean up some of the debris that we build up from everyday activities by trying to clean that stuff up. Okay, so we're going to move to standing soon. But before we do that, from sitting, I want you to stimulate your sensory nerves. So we've done this before if you've been to my class. I start by rubbing my hands together. And this is really good if you want to rehabilitate a part of your brain. And for us, it's our motor area that we want to make sure is very good. You can start to brush your head and around your neck. So when you stimulate this part of your brain, the sensory part, it's right beside the motor area of your brain. So because blood is going to that area, we're stimulating sensory nerves. You're indirectly bringing blood to the motor area. So this is a trick when someone has a damaged part of their brain and we want to heal it, you just start to stimulate parts of the brain around it. And this is a cool trick just as a warm up when you want to start to move. So now if you can warm up your shoulders, try and get everything, even the back and the shoulder blade. Pecs a little bit too, your chest muscles. Down the arm and back up. What you're also doing is building a mental map. Now you know the borders of your body. Sometimes in our minds we have a skewed version of how long or how wide our body is, and sometimes that causes clumsiness. If you imagine teenagers, they're often clumsy because they grow so fast. Their mental map is different the night before than the next day. Next arm, start to work the shoulder and the pecs and the shoulder blade. Also, this is a good way if you have some pain in an area. If you start to touch it, you can slowly start to reprogram that area a little bit. And talking about the brain, pain is not something that you are told by an object. It's actually your brain sending a signal to your body that tells you that it's painful. They started changing the name for pain receptors. Now they call them threat receptors. They assess threat, your brain decides if it's threatening, and then it'll cause pain for you. So it's actually a message from your brain to your body, not from, you know, if you cut yourself. The knife didn't cause you pain, your brain told you it's painful. So now you can move your way. I'm just going to sit up a little bit. So your abdominals and the sides. So the part of your brain that's in charge of the sensory area here is also connected with breathing too. So if you stimulate these areas, this can improve your breathing in some ways. Some people who have difficulties. With loose fists, you can start to knock on the back, all the way from your tailbone, all the way up to your upper back. Really light. Do it in such a relaxed way that you can feel the shaking happening in your body, like you're beating a drum. Okay, we're gonna work our way to standing if that's okay with you guys. You guys should be kind of warmed up a little bit more. So just turning the arms and letting the arms swing and hit the hips and the body. So you're just kind of with relaxed arms. Let the shoulders hang in the socket. Remember, how much do you need to hold your body up? How much can the ground hold up for you? Good, now we're gonna start to, I'm just gonna change my camera angle. So this is kind of like reaching down and brushing the front and the back of your legs. Okay, good guys. Now we're all warmed up. Hopefully our motor area in our brain is a little more prepared for some good balancing movements. Okay. So remember that the downward pressure helped us lift our arms up. And with a good grounding, a good foundation, this will give you strength and make it easier for your movements. We're gonna try that with our legs. We're gonna build some balance now. So I want you just to focus on balancing this leg. You're gonna shift, lift your leg up, and then slide it out. I'm shifting my weight over, feeling grounded, bringing my leg here, oops, lifting up. Simple. Just to get the feeling that the more grounded you are, the easier it is to just lift and balance. If you want, you can even lift your arms, up to you. But you're not focused on the lifting of the arms and the legs, you're actually focused on how much weight and pressure is going into the ground. Imagine that you have two scales and you're shifting your weight from one scale to the other, and you want to make sure that all of your body weight is on that scale before you lift. I'm just going to check in on you guys. If you guys are patient enough with putting your weight on the scale, you'll notice that there's actually an internal pressure that's lifting you up. It might take some time to feel, and I wish I could show you guys in person, but the more downward, heavy, and relaxed you are in that leg that's balancing you, the easier it should be to lift up. Try the same thing with your eyes closed. So our eyes give us so much information in balance, and you'll notice just simply closing your eyes will kind of mix things up. And what we want is, when our brain doesn't have the information the eyes give us, we want to use the feeling on the ground and proprioception. We could be overly dependent on our eyes, but our eyes are actually really easy to trick. Good, guys. And what you're doing now is mapping different parts of your brain. Without eyes, where am I in space? And again, make sure you guys are not overly tense. The leg that's on the ground shouldn't be too tense. Your feet should be relaxed, your knees slightly unlocked. Okay, excellent. And you can shake yourselves out. We're gonna reset for a second. So I'm standing on one leg, and you can't see me. Maybe you can see my knee up in the air. I have 4 directions that I'm gonna look at with my head. I'm gonna look up, back to the center, to one side, down to the center, down, back to the center, and like that. You'll start to notice that balancing on one leg and turning your head and your eyes will completely give you wrong information in your leg, and you're gonna fight a little bit to balance. So this is the exercise. Standing on one leg, we're gonna change our head and eye position to look up, down, left, right at a nice slow pace. You wanna reset by coming back to the middle and work on staying balanced. You'll notice some of our balance systems are actually being really confused right now. And where does this happen in a Systema class? Or where does this happen, you know, when you get tricked like playing sports, you know, when something's coming at you too fast and you lose balance. Good, switch legs if you haven't. We're gonna play with this for a little bit longer and we'll add some variations in a bit. So be patient with yourself. You'll notice one leg is probably a lot harder to balance on than the other. Remember, you want a complete motion with your head. You don't want to do half. You actually want to fully look to one side and back. The information in your eyes will mismatch the information in your legs. You'll feel off balance for a second. What you'll notice is your attention, if it goes back to the leg, that'll give you more accurate information. You'll stay balanced in that sense. Good, guys. I can see you really wrestling with it. Be patient with yourself. Make sure your breathing isn't labored or shallow. You want to still be breathing normally. And make sure you're not building up tension in the shoulders. You can kind of let them hang on the spine. Okay, good, guys. Shake yourselves out. This is really pushing the limits of what your brain is doing. And we just want to sharpen that. So once you guys come back to class or start attending your sports again that you like to do, you're sharper. The same exercise we're going to do, going back to the first leg, but with our eyes closed. You're going to look up, down, left, right, but your eyes are closed and you'll see a drastic difference in your balance. So I'll demonstrate, and I'm going to fall over right away. My eyes are closed and I'm looking left, and I have to go a lot slower because the information that I need to balance is gone, and already losing balance just, you know, looking in two directions. So I want you guys to try that with your eyes closed, one leg in the air. Focus on the leg touching down. And remember, you're going to look up, back to the center, and in all four of those directions. Be patient with yourself. You're going to have to move a lot slower with your head movements. Because what's happening is where your eyes used to fill in the information, that's gone. And so now we're really kind of tricking your brain to start feeling the ground a little bit better, to use that information as more true knowledge than what our head or eyes are doing. And you guys can switch legs on your own. So if you want to switch legs, you'll have a very different experience with each leg. Excellent, guys. Maintain your breathing. Remember, feel the ground with that foot. We're tricking your inner ear, your vestibular system, to get different information that's mismatching what's happening. And that's okay. We're trying to correct it. We're trying to just clean up. Sometimes we fill in gaps with our brain. We're trying to clean that up to have more of reality. So we can base our movements more off reality than making things up in our mind. Good, guys. You can shake yourselves off, take a little bit of a break. So this is often very fatiguing, and you'll notice yourself using a lot of brain power because this is actually a very hungry part of our brain. This little part of our brain that helps us balance, 80% of our neurons go to this area. So balance, coordination, and movement is probably one of the most important things our brain is designed for. And other stuff is a very small percentage of that. So now I want you to, with your eyes closed, go through a set of exercises that you like. Could be push-ups, it could be body raises and squats, but I want you to do them with the same awareness. Flat feet make it tough. Rolf said flat feet make it tough. Yes, it does. And you can correct that by strengthening the feet. So I want you guys to start doing on your own push-ups, body raises, squats. If you have a Pilates move that you like, I want you to do it with the same awareness that you had while you're balancing. So with your eyes closed preferably, and feel the ground more. The ground will give you more true information than what your eyes or your balancing system gives you. And remember, everything we train is building a pattern. So we want to make sure we do everything with relaxation and breathing. So it doesn't matter how many reps you can do. You could do one perfect rep of each exercise, and that's actually enough. That'll set the groundwork for really good movement. As you guys are working, I'll just share the quote with you that I mentioned earlier. We have a brain for one reason and one reason only. That's to produce adaptable and complex movements. Movement is the only way we have in affecting the world around us. I believe that to understand movement is to understand the whole brain. And therefore, it's important to remember when you're studying memory, cognition, sensory processing, they're for a reason, and that reason is action. And just in case you guys are curious, that's from Daniel Wolpert, who's a neuroscientist, if you are interested. Good, guys. And whenever you're ready, you can, I'm going to unmute you guys. I want to hear some feedback or anything you guys want to say or share. Everybody's been unmuted. Are you guys feeling okay, first of all? Yeah, good, good.
Great stuff.
A little tense after that balancing with eyes closed. That was tough.
A little bit tense, yes. It does bring in a lot of tension.
Michael, what was that neurophysiologist name that you're quoting?
Oh, Daniel,
Yeah.
and then his last name is W-O-L-P-E-R-T.
Awesome, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Michael, the balance and the, especially with the eyes closed, I noticed it also surfaced a lot of fears, right? A lot of, I don't know, I felt like it brought up other things in addition to what was going on.
Yeah, we just scratched the surface.
Right, it's the realm of the, the unknown and uncomfortable, and of course that can bring up a whole slew of things. It was really interesting.
That's very good. Excellent, guys. Okay, if you have nothing else, this work, you can work on this on your own, which is brilliant. You can clean up the way your balance and your vision systems work by doing this exercise. And what they found is for people with concussions, for athletes, this improved their performance because most of our movement is stimulating from these parts of our brain that we were working on today. So hopefully that helps you guys. I hope I gave you some tools that you can work on and improve your performance. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Take care.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks,
Michael.
Thanks.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Michael.
Thanks, Mike.
Great class.
You all.
Great class.
Hey, Tom.
Hi, Eddie.